Hello, this is Storybooks channel. New videos are posted every day. Subscribe and click the bell.
The old boat stood dead weight in the garage, and Lisa sat pensively in the front, in the small wooden triangle at the bow. This boat had been made by Dad himself when he was still young, a long, long time ago. He used to take meticulous care of it, painting it every spring with new varnish, touching up and fixing things. Lisa used to come here to visit the boat when she was homesick for her father. As a child, she loved to sit like this on the very edge of the boat, and it seemed to her that she was not riding on the boat, but flying low over the water, like an Indian goddess, sitting on an invisible flying mat. It had been 5 years since Daddy had been gone, and now there was no one to look after the old boat. Lisa's husband, the jovial joker John, has no interest in the boat. He has little interest in anything but beer and soccer. Is she so wrong about him? A few years ago, trying to please her, the daughter of an academic, he took her to theaters, classical concerts, dressed in costumes, and listened to Wagner with her and her father. And then, when they got married, he listened to Wagner for a while too, though Lisa was already well aware that he didn't need it at all, and now he watched soccer downstairs and drank beer every night. No, Lisa didn't mind at all, to each his own, but why did he have to pretend like that? Now she was disgusted by his pretense and wanted to leave so that she wouldn't see him sitting in her father's favorite chair, with his feet up on the low antique table, eating fish on the newspaper, throwing the scales right on the floor, and drinking beer with his friend Kevin, who came to their cottage from the city almost every weekend. Lisa went away, upstairs in the attic, and painted her still lifes there. Peonies, poppies, field cornflowers in big empty jugs or in light transparent bottles. Her friend Molly, a classmate, came to visit her from the city too. She and Molly had been friends since childhood, since first grade, and they knew everything about each other and shared their deepest secrets. Molly was her complete opposite. Lisa is fragile, shy, was very sickly as a child, missed school every now and then, came down with another sore throat. Molly is athletic, tall, sturdy, bullied, always able to stand up for herself. They sat at the same desk, and Molly, seeing how draws in Notebook's dreamy neighbor, admired from the bottom of her heart. "Wow, how do you do it?" "I don't know." Lisa shrugged her shoulders. "I just see it in my head and repeat it." "You're an artist." Molly said affirmatively, and this statement defined Lisa's future profession. She did go to art school after 9th grade, and then to the famous Watercolor Academy. Now she herself was already a teacher at this academy, and Molly was a successful coach master of sports and athletics. So different, they nevertheless always found something to talk about and continued to be friends, although, it would seem, what they could have in common. Molly, the daughter of intelligent parents in a city apartment, my mother even had a servant, my father was an academician of the Russian Academy of Sciences, a respected man, and my mother was also a famous musician, played the piano, taught at the conservatory, and at home gave open lessons. Now there is no mom, no dad, there is only one Lisa and Molly, a loyal, reliable friend on whom you can always rely. Not adapted in the domestic plan, Lisa, she always helped out, at least to get tickets, at least a big cleaning at the cottage, everything. All this was organized by Molly, and many other things too. Lisa just couldn't do without Molly, and John was terribly angry at first when they first started living together. "What's she doing here all the time? Doesn't she have her own things to do?" "Why do you do that, John?" Lisa answered with a slight reproachful tone. "She's my friend. We're practically like sisters, you know." "But I married you." John continued to resent her. "Not that sister of yours. Whenever I come home, She's right there, unashamedly lying on our bed. How is that even possible? And she comes out of the bathroom in your robe. I thought she was you from the back the other day. She's sitting at the table by the mirror, with your bath turban on her head, a robe and a mask on her face. I couldn't make it out in the bright light. I came closer. I wanted to hug her, and she started laughing. What, honey? Did you get it wrong? Anyway, you do what you want, but it's got to stop. John went on, I don't want to live in a threesome, and I hope you don't either. That's disgusting. Lisa corrected herself squeamishly. I'm sure, but that was a long time ago, the first year or two of their life together. Then John got used to this state of affairs and didn't mind when Molly fried pancakes in their kitchen or washed windows to help Lisa, who suffered from vertigo. Molly's own home wasn't exactly sweet. She lived in a tiny 2-room apartment with her mother, a half-paralyzed grandmother, and an alcoholic father in the farthest and dustiest factory industrial district. Lisa and the whole family always felt very sorry for her and tried to help her, to buy her a dress, a blouse for holidays, or groceries, ashamed to embarrass her if she seemed inappropriate. Father, bringing tickets to various children's events, Christmas trees, theaters, concerts, and making out vouchers to pioneer camps, never forgot about his daughter's girlfriend, and Molly and Lisa were everywhere together. As they grew older and their interests and studies grew, they were separated a bit. Lisa traveled to gliders with her school, Molly to training camps and competitions, but when they met after separation, they couldn't talk enough. Now that Lisa and John lived mostly in the country, Molly lived in their city apartment, and it was better for her to have a break from annoying relatives and to look after the living space. On weekends, she, if there was no competition or traveling, came to visit them. Molly was not married, nor did she aspire to be. She said with a laugh, "Good men have long ago all taken away. You, Lisa, lucky. You are always lucky. You are happy, and such as me, apparently not supposed to." She laughed gaily, trying to hide her sadness, and immediately rushed either to do the dishes or to cook something delicious in Lisa's big, beautiful kitchen. "I'll be there for you, like a pet." Molly laughed when Lisa convinced her that she would find her destiny. "Molly, you're so sweet." Lisa hugged her, barely reaching her tall friend. "You're like family to me. Do you want me to ask John to introduce you to someone at work?" "No." Molly shook her head. "That's kind of silly. If fate throws up a bow, so be it. And if not, well, I'll be with you my age to roost." She laughed again and kissed her friend on the cheek. "Cheer up, Lisa." As if Lisa were the one who had been deprived of her fate, and not she herself. Molly was not in today. 2 days ago, she had left for another training camp to train young athletes, and in a few days Lisa herself was leaving for practice, for nature, as the artist said, also to train children to paint landscapes. It was stuffy in the bright attic, and the dust flew, spiraling in the sunlight. Lisa suddenly felt so wistful. She got up from behind her easel, stretched, and opened the door. She could still hear the muffled muttering of the television from downstairs, but no one was yelling as loud as they could. "Goal, goal." Apparently, the broadcast of the soccer match had already finished, and John and Kevin, just sitting around drinking beer, and the TV was muttering to itself. Lisa went downstairs to pour herself some tea and found that no one was in the spacious kitchen living room anymore. She turned off the TV, put the kettle on, and went outside, and by the garage she saw a startling sight: her own husband and Kevin, a friend of hers, pulling Dad's boat out into the light of day and busily working on it. Lisa smiled happily. "It's beautiful. I guess I was wrong to underestimate him." So what if it's beer? He can if he wants to. Happy she ran down the steps and past the flower beds. Molly did her best. Oh, let me in. Lisa laughed. Your bones are cracking. You'll break them. You track and field athlete. Molly had already prepared an amazing dinner for her arrival. The men, John and Kevin, had roasted the meat. They opened a bottle of light white wine for her and Molly and drank beer as usual, but then also brandy, sweet for tea, said chuckling John, opening a bottle from his father's old stock. Lisa wanted to be indignant because they had agreed not to touch her father's bar unless it was absolutely necessary, but she restrained herself. And today was just such an occasion. They were waiting for her, they were trying, and she was going to make a showdown. Why did they open a collector's cognac? It's low. Dad would have said so. It's low and ugly. In the morning after breakfast, John, Molly, and Kevin, blindfolding her with a kerchief, solemnly led her to the pond, said surprise. Smiling Lisa guessed, of course, what the surprise was, but she didn't let on. She was trying to play the game of surprise and curiosity, but when they took off her handkerchief for a laugh, 3 times around its axis, Lisa did not pretend to aghast. My God, what a miracle! On the quay stood, barely bobbing on the water, a boat shining with new turquoise paint, and the inscription on the side, Elizabeth, in dark brown ochre, stood out brightly, flashing against the glossy azure. Thank you, thank you. She threw herself around John's neck and then hugged her friend tightly and even kissed the cheek of an embarrassed Kevin, who was blushing with embarrassment. Thank you, guys. Wait, there's more. And Molly ceremoniously handed her a large cardboard box. Is it just me or is it someone's birthday today, huh? Happy birthday. The boys cheered and popped a bottle of champagne. Barely breathing, Lisa pulled a tiny kitten out of the box. Oh my God, Molly, her eyes filled with tears. Oh, it's so cute. Do you like it? Molly perked up. You ask. Lisa clutched the baby to her chest. How wonderful you are, how fluffy. He's tricolored, see. Molly proudly pointed her finger at the tiny body. I'm told tricolored brings happiness. I'm already the happiest in the world. Lisa almost burst into tears of delight and emotion. I have you so. All right. She was stopped by her friend. We're the best, of course. And she laughed, throwing back her head, loudly, joyfully, reminding something of a prancing horse. And now sitting, as in her childhood, on the bow of the boat that had come back to life, Lisa felt a deep sense of peace. How good it felt! Her daddy's old favorite boat, which he had once given her when she was 5 years old for her birthday, pretentiously and lavishly named Elizabeth, was back in service. Here she is silently gliding on the water surface of the pond, cutting through the cassava, algae, breaking through the thickets of lilies. Oh, look, a kingfisher. And another one, and another one. Lisa laughed happily, showing her friends a flock of bright azure birds that flew up in a scattering of jewels near the shore. There were always their nests here, I remember. How long had it been since she had ridden like this on this old pond? What a magical beauty it is here. Hey, on the boat. Suddenly it sounded nearby. Watch out! Cutting through the calm, standing water, a motorboat was rushing towards them, roaring and blasting fountains of spray with its propeller, leaving behind a real whirlpool. Look out! The motorboat was getting closer and closer. Lisa stared at the flying jet ski in amazement, and at some point she realized that it was going to hit them. Stop! Stop! She screamed, and their own boat, already rocking on the waves, raised by the motorboat and shaking left and right. She was sitting in a Turkish way, as in her childhood, and frantically grabbed the side with her hand. John was yelling and cursing at the top of his voice, waving his oar, trying to push off and avoid a collision. The guy sitting in the motorboat, diving goggles halfway down his face, disheveled gray hair, some kind of tattered t-shirt, was desperately twisting the wheel and yelling back. "It's jammed! Turn, turn, turn." Boom, terrible jolt, noise, crack. Lisa, unable to keep her balance, falls into the water, very near the dreaded spinning propeller. Lisa screams terribly, hides in the depths, and the calm, bright lights, huge lamps, terrible cold. Why is it so cold? Scary creatures wearing the same huge glasses halfway down their faces, the other half not visible either, swathed in white cloth. Pain, eerie, still developing in two. Lisa wants to scream at the top of her voice again, but only a suppressed mooing comes out. She's awake, add anesthesia. Warmth envelops her, the bright light is veiled by a white cloth, the jackhammer is no longer pounding in her head. Good, she can sleep. Lisa didn't finally regain consciousness until a week after the accident at the pond. She had been kept in a medically induced coma the whole time. The painful shock of the terrible injuries was too great. A motorboat propeller had severely damaged her spine and almost ripped off one foot. At the clinic where she was brought, an old surgeon, a friend of Lisa's father, seeing in the patient's chart her rare middle name, worriedly poked his finger. "This is not the daughter of Academician Vishnevsky. We do not know." The residents waved their hands. The surgeon ordered to make inquiries. At the post asked the relatives, and the information was confirmed. It was indeed Elizabeth, the daughter of the same academician. "Hang in there, Lisa," said the doctor. "You'll make it, no matter what it costs me." It cost both her and the doctor a week and a half without rest and almost no sleep. Lisa was under anesthesia and on tranquilizers the entire time. The surgeon on cigarettes and coffee. But in the end, he managed to get her out and reattach her foot and reassemble her spine. Now, all we had to do was wait to see if it worked or not. Where are her relatives? With red, watery eyes, the surgeon came out of the operating room. Let them know it was a success. Tomorrow, if it's an uneventful night, we can move her to intensive care. Molly and John were sitting in the spacious country kitchen of the academician's house and drinking beer when the phone rang and John was informed that his wife had been successfully operated on for the third and final time, and now all they had to do was wait for her to wake up. "Will she walk?" Concerned John asked. He was told that it was too early to say anything about that. Shit. John threw the phone on the couch. Survivor. Molly was silent and concentrating on chewing crab chips. Finally, wiping her hands with a napkin and taking a sip from her bottle, she looked up with angry eyes. "I told you not to call an ambulance, motherfucker." She threw the empty bottle at the sideboard. The polished wood gave a resounding thump. The bottle shattered into splinters, and the antique glassware on top of it clinked pitifully. "Look out," rumbled John. "Don't beat up the antiques." "Fuck you. Spit on the floor, Molly, with your antiques. What? Did you bite it? She's alive. Your wife is alive. And still wakes up, calculates everything, herself, or with someone else's help, and will throw us out of here. And that's only in the best case, in the best case." Already Molly was yelling, out of fear and rage. "And if you coward had done as I said, we would be in the chocolate now, yes." "Calm down, Molly." John walked over to her and put his arm around her shoulders as she sat in the padded chair. "Molly, let's not do this, okay? We're so good together. We'll think of something. I already have a plan, Molly. I mean, think about it. What would we look like if we hadn't called an ambulance right away? I'd be in jail right now, and I'd be dead. We have to be careful, you know. Careful step by step. Okay, Molly has softened up a bit. But what about this one? What if it cracks? No, John said firmly. He's already there. The girl tracked down the doctor and inquired, "Do you need any medication?" "You tell me, I'll get it. Medication can't help here." The doctor frowned. "We need to operate, and urgently. Surgery." "Then do it. What are you waiting for?" "It's a paid operation." "How paid?" The doctor didn't say anything. "Okay, but there are quotas, right?" "On the quota, the queue for the year ahead. And if we do not make your grandmother's surgery in the next 2-3 months, you will lose her." "How much is the surgery?" The doctor wrote down the amount on a piece of paper and silently handed it to Emily. "Where are we going to get such money?" exclaimed the girl in despair. "Is it impossible to do anything? There are some foundations that help to find money. There are funds, but they tend to help the young and your grandmother. Excuse me, age. What am I supposed to do?" Emily cried out of desperation. "Don't give up. Your grandmother doesn't need the extra worry right now, and look for money. I don't know. Borrow from someone, take out a loan. Without surgery, how long can she live? Until the first stress. She's in mortal danger from any kind of excitement right now. Can you keep her from worrying? No. Think about it. Surgery is the only thing that will help her." The girl returned home, completely powerless, lay down in bed without undressing. She opened herself up with a blanket and sobbed into her pillow. "I'll never find that kind of money," she read. "Even if I sold everything here, I wouldn't get that kind of money. What can I do? Where can I find the damn money? There must be some way out." Her sobs were interrupted by a phone call. An unfamiliar number popped up on the screen. "Hello." Emily answered cautiously. "Emily, it's Robert." "Remember me? You scratched my car." The girl went cold. It had been 3 weeks since the accident, and she had forgotten about it, busy with domestic problems. "Yes, I remember." "Unsure," she answered. "I'm calling to find out when you're going to pay me back for the repair." "How much?" In a hoarse voice of excitement, she asked. "You'd better not know." Robert laughed. "I doubt very much you have any. I'll try, I'll earn it." Emily spoke quickly. "I'll give it to you as promised. I have another offer." "What?" The girl was surprised. "This is not a telephone conversation. Can we meet tomorrow at the cafe after work?" "I don't understand. What do you want from me?" "I told you I'll give you the money. I'll tell you everything when we meet. If you come, otherwise I'll sue you for the repair money. Do you want that kind of trouble?" "Okay, I'll come over." Emily reluctantly agreed. She showed up a little before the appointed time. "Will you order something?" The waiter asked her politely. "Yes, a cup of coffee, please." She stared hatefully out the window, waiting for Robert. There was a cup of coffee in front of her, but she didn't even touch it. "Good evening." She heard and shuddered in surprise. "Sorry, I'm late. Business. I suggest we go straight to you." Emily nodded in agreement, glanced at the car parked in front of the cafe, and blushed. The black, shiny side of the car still had a huge scratch on it, and it looked especially ugly in the burgundy rays of the setting sun. "Tell me quickly what you want. Take your time." Robert grinned. "You won't get rid of me that easily, and you'll have to pay for it anyway. I won't sleep with you." "Don't even count on it." Emily cut Emily off angrily. "What makes you think I want to sleep with you?" The young man raised his eyebrows in surprise. I'm not going to throw myself at your bones, he remarked, hinting at her slim figure. I have a business proposition for you. If you do everything right, I will not only forgive the debt, but also give you money. Emily looked at him with interest. What do you want me to do? You see, I'm from a wealthy family, and my parents for some reason decided that I must marry the daughter of my father's childhood friend. Is she ugly? That's not the point. I don't love her. I already have a fiancé of my own choosing, but I know for a fact that my parents won't agree to our marriage. My father will think of disinheriting me, and I don't want that. I don't understand. What does this have to do with me? You're going to play my fiancé. What? She looked at Robert in surprise. Are you out of your mind? I've thought of everything. The young man hurried on. My father is a very stubborn man. There's no way he'd let me marry someone like you. What's wrong with me? The girl looked at him suspiciously. It's written on your forehead. A hillbilly. I still don't understand. What don't you understand? I'll introduce you as my fiancé. My father, of course, will fight to keep us from getting married. In his mind, you're no match for the rich heir to the family business, and we'll have to part ways. I resent the whole world and my father, who did me such an injustice. I will stop eating and sleeping. My torment of lost love will become unbearable for others. Robert accompanied his fiery speech with theatrical gestures. Emily, smiling, looked at him. But I won't suffer for long, to be honest. I won't last a day without food, but a couple of months or so. My parents, of course, my suffering will bring a lot of grief. My father, out of guilt towards his son, will eventually agree to all my terms. That's when I'll introduce Kelly to them as my true one and only lover. By then, no one will even remember my friend's hated daughter. I get to marry the girl I love, you get the reward, and we're even. $50. Emily said quickly. What? I don't understand, Robert. I want $50,000 and not a dime less for helping you. The girl repeated firmly. Robert looked at her dumbfounded and even coughed, choking with indignation. Aren't you confused now? Actually, you still owe me for the repair of the car. Isn't it too expensive for your services? I didn't expect that. You look like you're doing the right thing. Or you're paying that much, categorically declared the girl, desperately looking at him. Or I refuse to participate in your play. Find another fool who agrees to play the village simpleton. I'm sure she'll cost you more. It's none of my business, of course. But why do you need so much money? Where are you going to spend it in your village? As you rightly said, it's none of your business. Emily squeezed her eyes shut, not letting the tears escape. It's not for me. My grandmother urgently needs an operation. This money is for her. If I don't find this amount of money soon, she could die at any moment. I have no choice. Robert hummed, hesitated for a moment, then waved his hand. To hell with you. You'll get your $50. When are we going to meet the parents? The girl sighed with relief and answered, the day after tomorrow. Well, Robert said cheerfully and held out his hand to Emily. Shall we make a deal? Deal. She held out hers in return. I'll be there to pick you up, ready when you are. I'm on my way. Are you ready? Robert called at the agreed time. Ready. Looking back at the old woman, the girl replied in a whisper. The grandmother slept in her room. Emily went in from time to listen to her breathing. Just stop the car on the outskirts of the village. I don't want Grandma to see you. Why not? The young man was surprised. I don't want to worry her unnecessarily. I can't lie, and telling the truth would kill her. I got it. I'm already here. I'm waiting for you. I'm on my way. Emily hung up. "Grandma?" The girl peeked into the room. Jenna opened her eyes. "I've been invited to visit here. Will you be alone?" She looked at her guiltily. "Oh, how nice, of course I will." The old woman was happy. "Go, have some fun at least. Why should you stay at home with a sick old woman? Your business is young. Are you feeling all right? Don't worry, you'll rest at least. You're exhausted. I see. If you need anything, call me immediately. I'll be right over." "Okay." Emily kissed her grandmother. "Go with God, my dear." Robert looked with interest at the girl who was hurrying along the road. Yes, she was dressed, to put it bluntly, out of fashion. The young man thought to himself, "The dress is simple. They don't wear such clothes nowadays, only for the village. It's good that it's not up to her heels, but her legs are nice, and her hair is gorgeous. She should go to a good master. He could make a princess out of her." Emily, feeling his gaze on her, fixed her hair in embarrassment. Usually she put it in a tight braid so it wouldn't get in the way at work, but today she left it loose and slightly curled the ends. "Don't you have another dress?" asked Robert when the girl got into the car. "What's wrong with my dress?" "I'm sorry. Famous brands do not sell in our stores, and I don't have the money, as you know. I don't have. Besides, I'm supposed to play a hillbilly, and we have our own fashion. We can't keep up with you city folk, can we?" "Okay, no offense," peacefully said Robert and started the car. "It suits you." "Let's go." And he started the car. "Now listen to me. You have to create the image of a country girl who is dead set on the major. Sleeping and seeing how to marry me off so you can get a city license. Your parents can't guess that you've got a college degree under your belt. Let them see you as a poorly educated, uneducated girl. It's gonna be tough. It's okay. For 50,000 you'll work hard and you'll play it right. Remember, you have to scare them, push them away. Don't say or do anything to make them feel sorry for you or, God forbid, sympathize with you." "We're here," Robert announced, stopping the car outside the 3-story mansion. "Have you memorized everything?" "Yes, I'll try to play my part well." The young people walked into the house. Emily was worried. "Robert? At last, we've been waiting for you." Mother was the first to rush out to greet them. "Dear Mom and Dad." Robert bowed dutifully to his parents, giving them a solemn look. "Meet Emily, my fiancée." Emily was shy, sunk her gaze and remained silent, a light blush playing on her cheeks. "Son?" The father's eyebrows rose in amazement. "Surprised, so surprised. Are you sure that this is the girl you are ready to call your wife?" "What's wrong with that, Dad?" "Emily is a very nice, sweet girl. Yeah, she's not what you're used to seeing around me, but that's what I appreciate about her. What a big house you have." Gaining courage, Emily announced the living room with a glance. "It must be worth a lot of money." "Great. My grandmother and I have a small house. And the furniture." She was genuinely admiring the furnishings. "I don't even want to hurt it." Playing her role, she began to look with interest at the paintings hanging on the walls. Paintings, she touched one. Never understood why to buy them. There is no use from them, only collect dust. Paintings are aesthetically useful, if you know what I mean, grumbled Father spitefully, looking at the girl. "They should be admired, eh?" Emily looked around again. "Why is the vase on the floor?" The girl touched it. "Careful, my dear," Kathy exclaimed warningly. "It's a 16th century vase." "It can't be. And how well preserved is it?" "Wow. I've only seen these in history books." The parents were pathetic to look at. Robert chuckled to himself, but didn't interfere. I suggest we sit at the table." My father resolutely went to his seat. "Oh, really? I'm so confused." Kathy had the servants bring the hot pot. "Emily, what do you do?" "I work on the farm." "And where did you and our son meet?" "In a nightclub, wasn't it?" "What do you think? That if I'm from the country, I'm so dark?" "No, I don't think so." My mother was embarrassed. "Do you live with your grandmother?" "Where are your parents?" "They died in a car accident." "I'm so sorry, we didn't know." "Oh, it's okay. It was a long time ago. I don't really remember them. We're serving meat." Emily, pretending to be an uneducated hillbilly, grabbed a fork and hurriedly began to eat the meat. When she noticed Kathy's horrified look on her face, she was embarrassed. "I'm sorry." With her mouth full, she said, "Am I doing something wrong? Take your time, take the knife. That's not the way to behave at the table here." Robert said in a deliberately loud voice, "Oh, I didn't know." The fork accidentally fell out of the girl's hands right on the floor. "I'm sorry, I'll clean it up." She's blushing. "I'm so clumsy." "That's okay." "No." Emily jumped up. "I'll clean up my own mess. I'm used to doing everything myself. That's commendable, of course, but in our house we have special people to do it." Kathy remarked and pressed her lips together. Robert was having fun. Wow, I'd already believed she was so inept. Now her parents will definitely do everything they can to get rid of her. When the maid had cleaned up the floor and everyone had finally settled down, Sebastian spoke. "It's nice in your village, the fresh air, the freedom." "My childhood was spent in the countryside with my grandmother, too." "That's true." Looking at him dreamily, Emily answered, "But I want to move to the city as soon as possible. As soon as I get married to Robert, I will not stay a day in the village. Your house is big enough room for everyone. It's good that you don't have to rent an apartment. A lot of our girls work for an apartment. Do you know how expensive it is to rent an apartment nowadays? And I was lucky, yes, my favorite." She smiled sweetly at the young man. "Well, maybe you will not be very comfortable to live with us?" Cautiously asked the mother. "Usually young people try to live away from their parents." "Why not?" "You've got a big place to dance. We don't even have to see each other. We'll take a part of the second floor, for example. Surely there's an emergency exit in the house." She hummed in satisfaction when her father nodded his head, confirming her guess. "But our villagers will have one when I tell them what a fancy house I'll be living in. Even having a baby won't be a problem. Robert will hire a nanny, and we've put them in a separate room next to you." "Oh, I love it here. I'd move in right now." "Too bad Grandma will be alone. Maybe you have a room for her too." "We'll find a room for her." "Oh, we'll all live here." Robert realized from the confused look on his parents' faces that it was time to end the show. He was afraid of overdoing it. "I'm sorry," he said, rising from the table. "But we should get going. I have to take Emily home, and then I have some errands to run." Everyone stood up. "I apologize if I did something wrong," Emily said. She was terribly ashamed of her behavior. She was intelligent, well-mannered, and could hardly restrain herself not to immediately confess everything to her unhappy and frightened parents. "I'm very glad Robert has such a good mom and dad. Goodbye," smiling politely. The parents walked the young people to the car and breathed a sigh of relief as they drove away from the house. "What was that all about?" the father inquired. "Where did he get this country girl from?" "He always liked glamorous girls. I expected a bright blonde with plump lips and a tight dress that left no room for imagination. And this, you know," Kathy said thoughtfully, "there's something about her." "Yes, she's different, but you've noticed, Father, she's not lost her shyness and blushing." It's so unusual. That's the first thing I noticed, by the way, but I kept quiet. So what do we do now? We'll see. While the parents were at a loss as to why their son had brought to their house a girl who was not suitable for him, young people sat in the car, looked at each other, and finally gave vent to their stifling laughter. "You're so imaginative." Robert laughed. "I almost didn't believe that you were really so ill-mannered and that you were using me to get out of town. You have no idea." Laughing to the point of tears, said Emily. "How ashamed I was to behave like that. I'm not like that at all. And there are no such people in my neighborhood. I just remembered the heroine of some show and copied her behavior. Hey, have you ever thought about being an actress? You could play such an idiot on stage. I did it." The girl grew serious. "Only for her grandmother's sake. I hope I don't have to meet your parents again. I don't want to deceive them again. I was immediately disgusted to take part in your play." "Don't worry about it," the young man said lightly. "I'm sure they will already today forbid me to communicate with you even close. You've done your job. When do I get the money?" "As soon as my parents demand that I break up with you immediately, I will immediately transfer the amount to your account. No offense, but I need to make sure we're on the same page." When Robert returned home, he expected his parents to attack him with righteous anger, but nothing happened. They locked themselves away. The young man grinned, probably cleaning up his feelings about Emily. "Okay, I won't go to them. Let them calm down, think it over. Let's leave the conversation until morning." He went quietly to his room, and confident that his plan had worked, fell into a deep sleep. "Son?" 2 days later, Sebastian reminded him. "My mother and I have decided to have a celebration on the occasion of our 30th anniversary together. We have already ordered dinner at our favorite restaurant. I congratulate you." Robert was worried. "That's right," solemnly announced the father. "Mother and I want to see you with Emily, of course." "What about Emily?" The young man was stunned. "I thought you didn't want her in our house anymore." Sebastian knew his son very well, so he realized at once that he was up to something, but he couldn't figure out what. "She's certainly peculiar," the man said, "but she's very open and kind, no matter how strange it may seem." The mother interjected. "We liked her." "Of course," added the father. "We'll have to work with her a little to teach her some basic table manners, say, but it's all such trifles. The main thing is that she's sincere." "Robert, how many grades of education does she have?" 11, mechanically answered the young man. He suddenly realized that his plan had failed miserably. "That's wonderful," Kathy exclaimed. "We'll hire tutors and prepare her for college. She seemed a little silly to me at first, but I was shocked by her behavior at the table. But then my father and I discussed it all and realized her directness and ingenuousness were to blame, and it can be cured." The woman laughed. "But it is impossible to teach kindness and openness." "I agree with my mother. It is rare to meet such girls nowadays. She only needs a little dressing up and makeup. With your permission, I'll do it myself. It needs a woman's hand. I'll do everything. I'll pick out dresses for her in advance. I'll enroll her in a beauty parlor. We'll make a real gem of an evening out of her." "I think," discreetly, Robert remarked, "she won't agree to go to the beauty parlor with you, and she won't accept the dress. You don't know girls. They're ready to store all day long. And you don't know Emily," parried Robert. "What a bastard!" he thought angrily. His insides were boiling with indignation. "It seems my plan has really failed. I've missed something. But I won't give up so easily." As he left the house, he immediately started calling Emily. "They like you." He boiled. I didn't expect them to like you. They really believe that you are my fiancé. Who's here?" Emily asked, nodding her head at the young man and girl who had entered the room. "This is my friend David." "Shit," Robert cursed. "What bad timing." "David?" Kathy smiled. "Why are you dear late?" The woman picked up the young man with one hand and the girl with the other and led him over to Emily and Robert. "You probably haven't met Emily yet, have you? This is our son's fiancé. He has kept her so carefully hidden from us, he's no good." The girl saw David's eyes open wide in surprise. He had already opened his mouth to say something when Robert interrupted his friend. "David, I have something urgent to discuss with you. Shall we? Explain what's going on." David stared at him in bewilderment. "Who is this girl? And why is your mother calling her your fiancée?" "I thought she was your fiancée, Kelly. What, did you trade her for this one?" He nodded his head toward Emily and wrinkled his nose. "I don't know how you could get involved with her and bring her here." "Are you out of your mind?" "Shut up." Robert stopped his friend. "It's not what you think." And he told me about the bride his parents had set him up with and the pact with Emily. "So she's making this play in front of her parents just for the money?" "Yes, and I'm begging you not to tell anyone, especially Kelly. She can't know anything." "Swear you won't say anything." "I swear." Promised David. "But I don't suppose your mother would mind a bride like that, would she?" "That's the trouble. We agreed that Emily would get drunk, which would make her parents angry, but now I wouldn't be surprised if that didn't bother them. I can help you." "How?" "I'll seduce her in front of everyone. I don't think Kathy and Sebastian can forgive her for cheating on them. Just don't go overboard. I don't want a scandal." "Don't worry, you'll see a little flirting, and then in front of your parents, I'll steal her away. They're smart people, they'll know why we're going to be alone. How do you like that idea?" "It's not a bad idea." Robert said hesitantly, "Will my fiancée fall for it? Maybe I should warn her." "Let her play along." "Absolutely not. It has to look natural." "Are you questioning my ability to seduce girls?" With a conspiratorial wink at his friend, David headed over to Emily. "Emily?" He decided to take the bull by the horns. "You're adorable. May I have this dance?" "Oh." She was embarrassed and looked anxiously back at Robert. "I can't dance." "Oh, that's all right. We'll fix that." In fact, I think Robert will mind. I'm sure he wouldn't mind if I entertained his fiancée a little. "I can see you've been bored." He put his arm around her and led her to the dance floor. David put one hand on her back and the other below her waist. "I don't like you hugging me too frivolously," Emily said sternly to her partner. She was already drunk, but she realized that her friend Robert was up to something indecent. "Come on," roughly said David right in her ear. "I know everything. You don't have to pretend with me. I can see right through people like you. Robert, I know you're easily seduced, doll, and your fiancé's parents must realize that, so you'll have to play along. I'm sure it won't be too hard for you, though. Robert's not your first hookup, is he? Come on, give me a big hug. If you start getting handsy." She gave him a threatening look, Emily. "I'm not responsible for myself. I might punch you. I doubt anyone can stop me from doing that. We have to look natural for my friend's parents to believe that you're just a corrupt wench and can get carried away with anyone, especially when drunk. I've seen you with a glass of wine, and Robert's parents saw it too. Now I'm gonna have to kiss you, so let's not disappoint them. Just try it." With indignation, she gritted her teeth. "You'll have to be patient, otherwise no one will believe that you are easy to seduce." With these words, he sank his lips into hers. And now the next act of the play awaits the audience. It's time for us to get some privacy." Emily swayed slightly, not firmly followed David, accompanied by the perplexed looks of Robert's parents. Emily didn't care what they thought of her. In the morning, she opened her eyes with difficulty. Her head ached and her mouth felt as dry as the Sahara. She struggled to get out of bed and went to the kitchen. She drank a glass of water and looked into her grandmother's room. "Why are you lying down?" she asked her. "Are you sick? Maybe an ambulance? What's wrong with you, granddaughter?" The grandmother asked anxiously. "I've never seen you like this in my life. Why did you get drunk? I was so scared when they brought you in the car. You didn't look like yourself. Disheveled, I couldn't say a word. I had another heart attack, and today I can't get up. I'm sorry, Grandma, for upsetting you. I'm so ashamed, really. Why did you do that? Did I teach you to do that? And it's so embarrassing in front of the neighbors. But please forgive me. I'm really worried about you. How can you stay here alone? I don't have long to live. God forbid if you get addicted to drink. Who will support you?" "What's wrong, Grandma?" Emily sat on the edge of the bed next to the old woman. "That was the first and last time. And you're not going to die. We'll definitely think of something." "No, you can't help me now. How are we going to get the money for the operation? I'll live as long as God gives me. I wish you'd get better. I don't want to leave with a heavy heart. I just want to know that you found your happiness. Otherwise, you'll be all alone." Jenna leaned back on the pillow. "I'm tired. You go, I'll sleep a little." Emily went back to her room, lay down on the bed and thought. What to do? With Robert, the idea did not work out. Why did she even agree to participate in this adventure? For my grandmother's sake, of course, only for her. But now I can't take money from him. I don't need anything from him at all. The girl jumped out of bed and went to the window. "I like him." Suddenly she confessed. "Oh my God!" Emily grabbed her head. "What am I thinking? How can I, a country girl, dream of such a guy? He's got a fiancée. She's a match for me. Will he pay attention to me? He's probably forgotten my name by now. That's what I should do. Don't look at other people's fiancés. That's all." She shook her head. It is necessary to throw out bad thoughts and continue to live as before. All these acquaintances with the sons of rich parents has not brought happiness to anyone. I need to think about work and my grandmother. Yes, it's decided, she said firmly to herself. I will never agree to meet him again. I must stop all communication with him before I finally lost my head. Forget it like a bad dream. Emily? Jenna looked out the window one night and said, "What's that car parked in front of our house?" "It's a stranger." "Strange? Who could it be?" "You don't know?" "I know. The girl's a little gloomy. I'll find out." She went out into the street with a shawl over her shoulders. "Why did you come here?" She spoke sharply. "I told you not to bother my grandmother. Why didn't you call? You can't say everything on the phone, and I have no one else to talk to." Robert confessed, approaching her. "The whole plan is down the drain. David, my so-called friend," he grinned wryly. "He'd dropped in on my parents by accident, and he'd said so much. I didn't expect it from him. He set me up. He said that you were only with me for money, and he told me that a couple months ago I had another girl. I don't know what to do now. How do I face my parents?" The best part. Emily looked boldly at Robert. "Explain yourself to your parents. Stop lying. They don't deserve to be treated like this. Confess everything. It'll be easier on yourself. I'm sure they'll understand you. They're not animals. They're just wishing you happiness, not realizing you have a sweetheart. No. I can't tell them everything right now. You said you'd help, so you have to follow through. Don't count on me. The girl replied firmly, "I refuse to take part in this farce. I've done so much already. This is for your amusement, and I have no time to play with toys. I have to think about where to find money for my grandmother's operation. Leave me alone. Don't worry about it. I'm ready to pay for your grandma's treatment. Give me an account to transfer the money to." "But I didn't keep my end of the bargain." I don't care anymore. If I say I'll help you without conditions." "Well, I don't know." Emily's confused. "I don't feel comfortable taking money from you, so David's right. David is a traitor. I don't know why he even got involved in this case, but I'll figure it out. Tell me where to wire the money, and I will do it immediately." Jenna's operation was a success. It was done as soon as the money came in. "Everything's going well," the attending physician remarked. "Your grandmother will be back home as good as new." "Thank you, doctor." Grandma was on the mend. The girl was flying on wings until one day the phone rang. "Emily?" One day she heard the phone ring. "It's Kathy, Robert's mom. Remember me? You were at our house and then at the restaurant where you disappeared so suddenly with David?" "Yes, of course I remember. Hello." "Orobev," the girl replied, "I forbid you to mess with my son's head. I know that you decided to marry Robert for the money, and I know that you have already received a tidy sum on your account. Well, I don't want you anywhere near my son anymore. You got your money in your pocket. Leave Robert alone. Shame on you for covering up for Grandma's illness." "But the girl tried to explain. "I'm not going to listen to your lies. It is you with your beauty and supposed innocence turned my son's head, but I will not be fooled. I know your kind. I forbid you to come within a cannon shot of my son. If you try anything else to trick him, I'll go to the police." "You're a fraud. That's not true. You're wrong. I don't want to hear a word of it. You got the money, disappeared, broke Robert's heart. And how nice you seemed to Sebastian and me. But in fact, you turned out to be a calculating hypocrite. You've gained our trust, so that your foot in our house will not be in our house anymore." Emily, discouraged by the call, listened silently to the short beeps in the receiver. "What did you want?" she said, trying to hold back her tears. Everything had happened as planned. Now for the real bride, Robert. The road is clear. We have achieved our goal. And me. The girl threw the phone on the table and cried. Robert walked from corner to corner, measuring the room with his steps, glancing nervously at his watch. "It's time to go to the airport," he remarked. "I can't be late and not meet Kelly on time." He quickly got into the car. "Kelly?" He opened his arms to the girl. "I didn't expect you to come now. You were going to be home in 2 months, weren't you? This is for you." He handed her a bouquet of red roses. "What's wrong? You're the one I should be asking. What happened?" Coldly, the girl answered him. "I don't know what you mean." "David called me and told me you had another fiancé. You think I was supposed to sit around and wait for you to marry her? I demand an explanation. Why are you listening to him?" Robert laughed nervously. "He's always been jealous of me. I think he told you that on purpose so that you would leave me. Don't you know he's jealous of you? He was just waiting for a chance to break us up. I don't really have any other fiancé but you." "You mean?" The girl looked at him suspiciously. "He's making it all up?" "Not exactly." Robert hesitated. "Why don't we sit down somewhere and I'll explain it all to you?" "All right." Kelly agreed reluctantly. "But that doesn't mean I've forgiven you." The young people arrived at the restaurant. Robert ordered dinner. "Look, I did it for us. My parents had the idea of marrying me off to the daughter of a friend of my father's. They wanted to boost business, but they forgot to ask me if I wanted to marry her. What was I supposed to do? I came up with a plan, and Emily came along. Oh, so the girl David was talking about was a girl? I'm not saying no. She must have turned my parents against me. They would have forbidden me to marry her. I would naturally be in inconsolable grief for some time, until my father relented and gave me permission to marry the one I had long considered my fiancée. You do not deceive me. Kelly looked at him jealously. Was it all like this? Of course it was. Why would I deceive you? Everything I do is just for you and me. And the money? Did you really pay her? I did. She kept her end of the bargain, but most importantly, the plan worked, and now I can introduce you to your parents. When were you going to tell me all this? I was expecting you in 2 months. I couldn't have said anything over the phone. You wouldn't have talked to me. Now do you believe that I didn't cheat on you? Tell me, am I forgiven? I haven't decided yet. The beauty said haughtily, when you introduce me to your parents, then we'll see. Robert's decision to talk to his parents was not easy. Mom, Dad, when the moment was right, he said, I have something to confess to you. What is it? I have to tell you that Emily is not my fiancée. I lied to you. What, not your fiancée? Kathy was shocked by the message. Then who is? I met her by accident. She scratched my car. Since she didn't have the money to fix it, I offered to help her out a little. What kind of game are you playing? Dad frowned. I don't want to marry the girl you insist on marrying. In fact, I have a fiancée, and I love her very much. Wait, so everything that's been going on here lately is a hoax, an act? The mother looked at Robert in confusion. And who is this girl really? Her name is really Emily. She really lives in the countryside, but she has a college degree. She is a veterinarian. But she pretended to be your fiancée for money. She did it to save her grandmother, not for profit. Her grandmother needed heart surgery, so we made a deal. She helps me, and I help her. Do you realize I said some pretty nasty things to her on the phone? Kathy, pale as chalk, was furious with her son. I accused the poor girl of God knows what, and I didn't even give her a chance to defend herself. What position have you put us in? For God's sake, tell me, how is she doing? I haven't seen her in a long time. But have you even tried calling her? Many times, but she doesn't answer and ignores my messages. Why are you doing this, Robert? Sebastian looked angrily at his son. Couldn't you have come and told her you didn't want to get married? I couldn't. Robert was desperate. You've been running around with that bride of yours like a piece of paper, praising her, telling everyone about your upcoming wedding. What would you say to me, Papa, if I came and said I didn't want to marry that girl? I wanted to marry this girl. Would you have listened to me? I had to cheat, and you involved an innocent girl in your schemes. Anyway, now you know everything. I'd like you to meet my real fiancée, Kelly. She just got back from overseas. No way. Father cut me off. Stop us from making new acquaintances. You better deal with your fiancés first. Mom. Robert turned to her, looking for support. Father's right. Kathy said thoughtfully, when you're sure you're ready to marry her, you can bring her to our house. We don't want to witness any more of your love dramas, and we're not ready to get to know Kelly. Parents, I didn't expect this from you. Robert was desperate. Now he was afraid that Kelly would take offense at his refusal to introduce her to her father and mother. Now this topic is no longer discussed in our house. Sebastian said firmly. Robert thought how to explain himself to Kelly and was afraid of this conversation. However, the girl did not even ask when the meeting with her parents would take place. She, having returned to her homeland, immediately plunged into social life and completely captured the attention of the young man. Robert, the parents were offended. We do not see you at all. I have almost no free time," justified the son. "Kelly doesn't like to stay at home. We then in the club at midnight, then at a restaurant for dinner, and in the afternoon I work. I don't have much time to sleep, and there's no time to go out. She'll drive you crazy. Mother was worried. I really missed her." Robert smiled. Even a minute without her seems irretrievably lost. The young man was being sly. He did not want to admit that the relationship with his beloved was not so cloudless. "Kelly, I'm so glad you're here," he said, admiring his bride. "I'm glad too." She pouted her lips. "But do you know what it cost me to cancel my contract? I've lost so much money, you can't even imagine." "Darling, I'm prepared to reimburse you for all your losses. Ask for anything you want." "Well, I don't know." She raised her eyes to the sky, showing that she was very concerned about the choice of gift. "I've been wanting a new car for a long time. Mine is too simple for your fiancé status. You should be ashamed of yourself." She wagged her finger playfully and winked slyly at the young man. "For having such an old model of car. Okay, let's go to the car dealership tomorrow and buy the one you want." "Honey," Kelly squealed, "you're such a sweetheart. I adore you. This is gonna be the best present ever. I'd forgive you anything for it." The next day they went shopping. "I want this one." Kelly pointed her finger at an expensive SUV. "Why do you need such a huge car?" Robert tried to talk her out of it. "Why don't we find you something more feminine? Just say you didn't have the money." Kelly folded her arms across her chest and turned away from her fiancé. She'd always been cranky, but she'd never disliked that behavior before. Now, however, Robert found himself increasingly annoyed by her petulance. He glimpsed the manager, his face devoid of any emotion, but with a sneer in his eyes. "You gave $50,000 to some girl, and you spared me your fiancé. Why do I have to beg you for gifts? Explain. A real man never refuses his woman anything. Or maybe you've had enough of me. You know I'm not. Calm down, please. You don't have to make a scene here. I'll buy this car. If you like it so much, to please you, I'll take a star out of the sky. No offense." He kissed her on her cheek, which was blushing with annoyance, and nodded to the manager, who was watching the lovers with a nonchalant look. That evening they sat at a table in the restaurant and discussed the purchase. "Honey, I'm so grateful to you for this regal gift. I've already posted a photo of the car on my social media page. I've never gotten so many likes before. The phone does not seize, they call, asking when it will be possible to ride on my Swallow." "Listen, Kelly, I'm gonna need your help soon," interrupted Robert's enthusiastic exclamation. "I have a dinner with a business partner in 3 days. He'll be with his wife, and I need your presence. Darling, can you hear me?" He called out to the girl, who was deftly typing on her phone. "What?" She looked at the groom unhappily, reluctantly, breaking away from her occupation. "Eh? No, sorry, I cannot. Aren't you at all interested in what I do?" "Honey, it's so boring." She wrinkled her nose and looked at the phone again. "I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to leave." "Where?" "We haven't even had lunch yet. My agent texted me." Standing up from the table, Kelly said, "There's a casting call coming up. I can't miss it. I need new contracts. Bye, sweetie." She sent him an air kiss and ran off. "I think." The young man watched thoughtfully as his fiancée quickly got into the car, on the go, talking to someone on the phone. "Kelly, all you need from me is money." She had changed a lot since returning home. She used to be interested in the firm's business. And her temper tantrums, no, we've had fights before, but somehow it doesn't irritate me the way it does now. It feels like she's playing a role, and it turns out It's not sincere. Can't she still forgive me for Emily? It's my fault, of course, but she should realize that this whole stupid situation with the fake bride is long over. That evening, Kelly called Robert and said, "Honey, I'm ready to go out with your partner or whoever, but only on one condition. You give me a necklace. I bought a dress suitable for such a dinner, but my jewelry looks too plain with it." "All right." The young man immediately agreed. "We'll be sure to buy you a necklace. We'll meet at the jewelry salon tomorrow." My heart pricked unpleasantly. Emily would never put conditions on me. She would immediately agree to go with me. Stop! What am I thinking? The young man blushed involuntarily. How easy and simple everything was with Emily, how sincere and heartfelt she was. I had fun and freedom with her. I thought she even liked me. He involuntarily smiled, remembering the cute features of the girl's face, her long hair, simple dress, which sat well on her slender figure. The next day at the jewelry store, Kelly made another disgusted scene. "This necklace will not go with your dress." The saleswoman patiently explained to the girl, "You are thin, and on your chest jewelry will look bulky. Do you realize what you're saying? How dare you embarrass me in front of my fiancé? Who the hell do you think you are? You stupid, brainless chicken." Kelly was outraged. "No, how insolent is that? Robert, she just insulted me, called me skinny, and said that the necklace doesn't fit me." "Kelly," Robert said gently, trying to calm the furious bride, "why don't you look at another one? Just to compare. I think the salesman's right." "I get it." Kelly glared angrily. "You felt sorry for my money because I picked the most expensive necklace? And I didn't really want to buy anything from you guys. I don't want anything. And I'm not going to the appointment. Okay, that stupid sales girl just made me look stupid. But you, Robert, how could you question my taste? Can't I decide what kind of jewelry to match my dress? I'm sorry, my love. If you want, we can buy this necklace." The incident was over, but relations between the young people were getting worse. And more often at such moments, Robert thought of Emily and caught himself thinking that he missed her. "Son," Kathy asked me one day, "when are you going to introduce us to your bride? It's been so long. You don't say a word. Your father doesn't want to talk about it. And what can I do? I want grandchildren. Stop resenting each other. Are you and Kelly coming over for dinner tomorrow night?" Kathy made sure the table was properly set. "The cook has prepared a gourmet meal." "What are you doing here?" "It's like we're hosting royalty." A model, what a profession. Sebastian was angry with his wife. "I don't want to make a fool of myself," she told her husband. The girl lived abroad, accustomed to good cuisine. I wish I had hired a chef from the restaurant. However, our chef also knows a thing or two about food. That's my Kelly. Robert introduced his fiancée to the parents. The girl looked arrogantly at the owners of the house and gritted her teeth. "Hello, I thought you had a bigger house. Robert, he's been buzzing my ears about what a great house you have." "I think so." Sebastian replied discreetly. "There's plenty of room for everyone. But we're not going to live here anyway, are we, love?" She smiled at Robert. "I hope my future husband will buy a house for us. Can we go to the table now?" "I'm starving." Kathy replied confusedly. "Yes, come in. Everything's ready." Kelly looked at the table and sat down at the table. "I've lived abroad. They don't serve too many dishes. We didn't come here to eat. I can't eat too much. I have to keep in shape. I think it's very irrational to spend so much money on food. But I have men in my house," justified the hostess. "They are used to eating well. And you, dear Kathy." The guest remarked, It would be good to look after your figure. After all age, it's time to think about your health. Kelly softly pulled her Robert. You're being defiant. What did I say? She shrugged. Every self-respecting woman should strive to keep young. That's abroad do not make a cult of food. They're watch out for health and appearance. Kelly is right, of course. Barely holding back her tears, her mother said, I do love to eat, and being overweight is ruining me. I actually think, the girl spoke again, it's much better to have these dinners in a restaurant. No dishes, no hassle around the house. I'm not going to spend most of my life in the kitchen. Robert and I will eat at restaurants. Can't we talk about something else? Dad broke the silence. When are you getting married? We haven't talked to Kelly about it yet. Robert was embarrassed. The wedding can wait. Kelly looked sternly at the groom. I've signed a new contract, very favorable and promising for my career, and I'm not going to lose it. What about the grandchildren? Kathy asked shyly. I was so dreaming that you would soon have a little one. Oh, she waved her hands. I don't even think about that. A baby would put an end to my modeling career. No way. No kids while you're young. The age of the model is short. When I'm closer to 40, I can think about children. And in general, diapers, cradles, it's not for me. Kelly's cell phone screen suddenly lit up. She quickly read the message. I'm sorry, but we have to go. She stood up. Honey, will you walk me out? I've missed a lot already, you know. Sure. What are you talking about? Lisa nodded. Go, of course. Let John take you to the train or whatever it is you're going to do. That's the point, said Molly. Exactly how do you get there? All of ours had already left, and I decided at the last minute. It was a shame to leave you alone in the city like that, you know. That's why I can't get the tickets I need. Airplane tickets are too expensive, and the train tickets are all sold out. Would you mind if John gave me a ride to New York in his car? And from there are good tickets. I checked. Of course, what are you talking about? Lisa exclaimed. Who would I be if I objected? You both care about me so much, of course you'll go. Then we'll say goodbye. Molly smiled. We'd have to leave early tomorrow to make it on time. We'll leave at 4 o'clock in the morning, right, John? Sort of, agreed John. And you, honey, sleep, don't worry. And don't forget to take your pills. They're good for you. The day when Lisa was left all alone, apart from the nurse and the kitten, was unusually nice and sunny. It was like an unplanned holiday in the middle of November. Lisa asked the nurse to take her out into the garden, sat in the sunshine, and breathed the fresh air. Then had breakfast at 11 o'clock as usual and went to the veranda to work while there was good light. And about an hour later, heard the noise of the automatic gate pulling away, surprised and alarmed. Had John and Molly really returned? Maybe they had forgotten something important, say, a passport, and would now be late for the train. But a completely unfamiliar car drove into the yard. Out of it came strangers, a woman and a man, and with them a small child. As if they were at home, they went to the front door of the house and opened it with a key. Emily, Emily, shouted Lisa to the nurse. Emily, come here, for God's sake. Some strangers have come to our yard. Go ask them what they want. Emily left, and Lisa sat alone on the veranda again, listening to some lively dialogue between her and the strangers. She could hardly make out the words from the veranda, and here came the disturbed Emily, and with her the man who had come in the big unfamiliar car. Good afternoon. Weren't you supposed to leave before today, as agreed? What do you mean? I don't understand, Lisa. What was the agreement? With whom? With the salesman, of course. The man chuckled. We bought the house. You bought the house. Lisa's eyes darkened. No, it can't be. This is some kind of terrible mistake. This is my house. I live here. I've lived here for a long time. The cottage belonged to my late father, then to me. But you sold it to us, didn't you? The man pulled some yellow paper out of his bag. Look at this. Your husband signed the contract for you with a power of attorney. Read it, read it. You gave him the power of attorney. I did. Lisa echoed. But I didn't think, I didn't know. Listen to me. I had absolutely no intention of selling the cottage. She shrieked, finally realizing what was happening. John must have been deceived, missiled. Wait, I'll call him now. She pulled out her phone and pressed the call button. There was no dial tone for a long time, and then the cell phone operator announced, in the voice of a mindless mechanical robot, that the subscriber was not answering or temporarily unavailable. Not picking up the phone, probably communications out of the way. They left this morning, John and Molly. You know Molly has a plane out of New York today. She said to the man who was standing beside her, looking around, looking bossy. Mason, what's going on here? His wife came in and also looked at Lisa with surprise. And who are you exactly? I am the owner of this cottage. Lisa told her rather uncertainly. You were sold it by mistake. By mistake? The woman became agitated. By mistake, you say? Yes, I'll call the police. What kind of mistake? This isn't a joke, my dear. Here's the deed. Here's the register. This is our house now, so I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. Leave? Lisa was indignant. But we're not going to live here anyway, are we, love? She smiled at Robert. I hope my future husband will buy a house for us. Can we go to the table now? I'm starving. Kathy replied confusedly. Yes, come in. Everything's ready. Kelly looked at the table and sat down at the table. Where do you expect me to go? What do we care? The woman smirked. It's not our concern anymore. Shaking with terror, Lisa dialed Molly and John again and again, but could not reach them. Then, in utter despair, she called William. Hello, William. It's Lisa, yes. You know, I've had a terrible situation. Some strangers came and said I'd sold them the cottage, but I hadn't. John signed the contract by power of attorney. Someone must have cheated him. Probably the same people who came are kicking me out. Where am I going to go? Who will carry me to the cab, to the apartment? I don't even know who to turn to anymore. Could you come and take me to town? Please, I'll pay. William assured her that he would be there soon and asked her not to worry and to tell the strangers that he would come and take her away within the hour. Another conversation. Nodded the newfound hosts. Wait, of course. What are we, some kind of fiends? And they left the veranda and started to carry bags and boxes from the car. Lisa sat in her wheelchair, swallowing tears and convulsively clutching her pale, skinny hands, breaking, crunching her fingers. Emily, please, she asked the nurse. Would you be so kind as to fetch me my pills? Yes, I know it's not evening yet, but I'm terribly worried, Emily. Bring them, please. After taking the pills, Lisa was able to breathe more freely. The pressure in her chest was gone, and her eyes no longer swam in dark circles. Her head cleared, her eyes grew heavy, and she practically fell asleep sitting in the chair. It seemed like only 5 minutes had passed and William had already arrived. What's going on here? He asked worriedly. Come on, put your arms around my neck. I'll carry you to the car. Don't forget Trishka. Lisa got worried. He mustn't stay here alone. Trish is loaded too. And Emily the nurse, who in the meantime had managed to collect some things Lisa needed and left for the city. At the apartment, they got another unpleasant surprise. Lisa's keys did not fit the lock, which was shining with a new keyhole on the door, familiar from childhood. "What is it?" "I don't understand anything." Lisa cried out in despair. "What is it?" "Why can't I enter my own apartment?" "Calm down." William pressed the bell button. "We'll take care of it. What do you want?" An elderly woman, a complete stranger to Lisa, opened the door on a chain. "Who are you here to see?" "I live here." Lisa shouted and tried to reach forward in her wheelchair and grab the door with her hand, but William intercepted her just in time and put his foot through the gap. "Listen," he said to the "Did you tell me everything?" The girl looked at David angrily. "And now tell your friend how you offered to deceive him and get a tidy sum for it." "What?" Robert was stunned. "David, what is she talking about?" "Oh, yes." The young man blushed. "I suggested that she call Emily and demand that she pay back what she owed. It's your own fault." He lashed out at his friend. "He gave some girl all that money. Kelly was your fiancée, but she couldn't even dream of that kind of money." "It's my family's money," Robert said, looking at David menacingly. "I decide what to do with it." "She didn't tell you about the new SUV, about the diamond necklace I bought not too long ago. Was that not enough for her?" "No, she didn't talk about your gifts." The young man shrank under his friend's scornful gaze. "You know, I'm not even upset that you, Kelly, lied to me. Not only did you hide the fact that you lost your job and fell in love with someone else, you opened my eyes. And I'm grateful for that. Even ready to the plane ticket. Add the amount for rent for a month. Consider it compensation for not making a scandal at the breakup. But that's it. Let your lover support you now. Bye, guys." He got up from the table and headed for the exit. "Have a nice stay." "Robert, where are you going?" David asked him. "To a place where I am truly loved, not for money, just because I am me." The young man got into the car. All the way he smiled, imagining that soon he would hug his beloved. "Robert?" Emily jumped out into the street, noticing the familiar car. "What are you doing here?" "I came to see you," he answered simply. "What about your wedding?" The girl asked confusedly. "There will be one. You will marry me, won't you?" He took out of his pocket a ring of white and yellow gold, decorated with small diamonds, and put it on her finger. "It's only thanks to you that I realized what true love is. What about your fiancée? She's flying to her lover's house the other day. I'm not even angry with her because I never loved her. I got used to her. She was always there, bright, beautiful, but her beauty was false. You taught me to see a different kind of beauty, a soulful beauty. With you, it's like I've been cured of a serious illness. And now I stand before you and ask you to be my wife. Do you accept?" "Yes, I do. I love you." Emily threw herself on his neck, hugged him, and there was no need to hide her feelings. She looked at her chosen one with happy eyes. "I love you." Robert leaned down and kissed the girl. Jenna looked at them from the window and smiled. The elderly woman crossed the young couple 3 times and whispered softly, "God bless."